And this is where it all began. Conan Movie 15, Quarter of Silence.
I'm Shinichi Kudo, a pretty well-known detective. I was at a theme park with my fiancé, Ron Mori, when I ended up trailing this guy from a shady group called the Black Organization doing some kind of sketchy deal. I was so focused on spying on him that I totally missed his partner sneaking up behind me. He knocked me out and forced me to take this weird pill.
When I finally woke up, my body had shrunk to the size of a little kid. I knew if those criminals found out I was still alive, they'd come back to finish the job. So I hid out at Dr. Agasa's place and told him everything. When Rand saw me there and asked who I was, I panicked and blurted out the name Conan Edogawa. To track down the guys who did this to me, I moved in with Ren and her dad, who's a private eye. Besides Dr. Agasa, a few others know my real identity. One is Haibara, who actually used to be in the Black Organization. She managed to escape them by taking APTX, the exact same drug they made me swallow, so she ended up shrinking down, just like I did. My parents are in on the secret too. My dad is the world-famous novelist Yusaku Kudo, and my mom is Yukiko Kudo.
The movie kicks off with the grand opening of the entire Todo subway line. To celebrate this historic moment, the governor of Tokyo, Yuichiro Asakura, decides to take the lead and ride the very first train himself. He's joined by a bunch of VIPs and local reporters. While everyone is super excited to board, the police on the scene are completely on edge. Why? Because just a few days earlier, they received a threat letter vowing to assassinate the governor during this exact inaugural ride. Meanwhile, Conan and his friends are also out and about. They're riding with Dr. Agasa to attend a space exhibition. Along the way, their car passes through a long tunnel that runs parallel to the Toto subway line for a bit. The kids are pretty thrilled that they get to drive right alongside the governor's special train. But inside the tunnel, Conan spots a suspicious-looking guy dressed all in black, holding something in his hand. Zooming in with his glasses, Conan realizes the guy is holding a remote control. Is he planning to blow up the tunnel? Is the governor his target? As soon as they make it out of the tunnel, Dr. Agasa hits the brakes. Conan instantly hops on his solar-powered skateboard and speeds right back into the darkness. While rushing back, he calls Inspector Megure using Shinichi Kudo's voice.
Stop the train right now. A bomb is about to go off.
Inspector Megure listens to the warning and immediately orders the train to stop. But it's too late. The bomb detonates. Even though the explosion doesn't hit the subway directly, the massive hole it blows in the tunnel causes the train to derail and hurtle toward a suspension bridge. Luckily, they manage to slam on the brakes just in time. The train stops at the very last second, narrowly avoiding a massive disaster. At the press conference following the incident, Kogoro Mori is invited to speak. Thanks to Conan's timely warning, there were 0 casualties on the train or in the tunnel. Considering the massive size of the explosion, it's basically a miracle. But how could an elementary school kid like Conan know about a bomb? Inspector Megure and his team give all the credit to Kogoro, claiming that Mori must have tipped Conan off about a potential bombing. Kogoro is completely clueless, but he proudly accepts the sudden praise anyway, even if the situation is a bit awkward. The police also mentioned that the culprit escaped through an emergency exit, and Conan couldn't get a good look at his age, clothes, or facial features. After all, who can easily identify someone dressed entirely in black? Conan starts to think the threat letter might have just been a distraction. A few years ago, Governor Asakura was the Minister of Land, Infrastructure, and Transport. During his term, he relocated an entire village to build a new dam. Don't get the wrong idea. He didn't force them out. He actually stayed in the village, had heartfelt talks with every single villager to earn their trust, and provided them with a new location along with hefty financial compensation. This peacefully built dam is the Kitanosawa Dam. Conan decides to head out to the new village to investigate. When the detective boys hear the news, they insist on tagging along. So 5 kids, an old man, Ran, Sonoko, and Detective Mori all head to the new village, each finding their own way to have fun. The kids go snowboarding, Ran and Sonoko go skiing, and Mori hits the hot springs. Conan sneaks off to the village center to grab a map of Kitanosawa and a guidebook for the dam. There, he bumps into Keisuke Yamao and Shogo Hikawa, who are also looking for a map. Yamao wants a map of Lake Kitanosawa and an old map of the original village at the exact same scale. Hikawa explains that Yamao grew up there and wants to find the exact spot of his childhood home beneath the lake. As they leave, a stun gun drops out of Hikawa's pocket. Conan had planned to ask the staff about the guy who had fiercely opposed the dam's construction and whether he moved to the new village, but the staff just brush him off, thinking a kid shouldn't be worrying about such things. Genta ends up eating way too much, so he heads to the village clinic for some medicine. He literally devoured 10 plates of grilled octopus. When the nurse, Fuyumi Tachihara, finds out the kids are in the first grade, she suddenly looks heartbroken. Later that night, Fuyumi is seen gently touching the cheek of an unconscious young boy, looking absolutely devastated. Over at a nearby resort, the receptionist, Mizuki Tono, is also watching the nurse with a sad, depressed expression. Despite being sick earlier, Genta hasn't lost his appetite. That evening, he eats another massive meal at the resort and then starts demanding they buy souvenirs. What should he get for Ms. Kobayashi? Food or something useful? Haibara shows off her deep understanding of women's feelings and picks out a mug that says, "I love tea." It's definitely the perfect choice for the teacher. Meanwhile, Sonoko is picking out a gift for her fiancé Makoto, and she teases Ran to pick something for Shinichi too. Moved by her words, Ran steps outside to call Shinichi. This completely freaks Conan out.
If she sees me and my phone rings right now, I'm totally busted.
He sprints away and hides under a tree to answer Ran's call.
Which gift do you like better? An owl-shaped mug or a bear-shaped cake?
Well, Ran, I'll go with the owl.
While on the phone, Conan notices Genta and the others running outside. Where are they going this late at night? He quickly runs after them, totally forgetting about his footprints in the snow. When he realizes and runs back, he finds Ran staring in shock at the tracks. It turns out Genta and the gang went out to ride snowmobiles. Genta drives recklessly, goes off the marked path, and ends up flipping the snowmobile. The kids can't flip it back over, so they're stuck waiting for an adult to help. Conan and Haibara catch up to them on the skateboard. Conan suggests calling Dr. Agasa for help, but Genta and Mitsuhiko just start bickering and blaming each other out of frustration. Just then, Takahiko Muto drives by on his way to the resort, so they hitch a ride back with him. Muto is a woodcarver who built a small cabin in the mountains, and he has a workshop near the dam. The reason he doesn't live in the new village is his intense hatred for the Kitanosawa Dam. He's the guy who heavily opposed building it. When they get back to the resort, the kids notice a big crowd gathered in the lounge. It's Fuyumi the nurse, Mizuki the receptionist, Yamao, Hikawa, and Mutu. They're all from the old Kitanosawa village, and this is their first get-together in 8 years. Why the long gap? Hikawa says it's because of Yamao. 8 years ago, Yamao ran over Mizuki's younger sister, Natsuki Tono, killing her instantly. Yamao panicked and fled the scene. Even though he eventually turned himself in, it didn't fix what he did, and Mizuki still hasn't forgiven him. Yamao was just released from prison a few days ago, which is why they are finally meeting up. Speaking of grudges, Mutu hasn't forgiven Hikawa either. When the dam project started, Hikawa's family was the very first to vote, yes, take the compensation money, and move to Tokyo. Mutu saw this as a betrayal of their hometown and still holds a serious grudge against him. As you guys know, wherever Conan goes, tension and conflict follow. He's not the troublemaker. He's just the trouble bringer. The next morning, the kids rush out into the snow for an epic snowball fight. Even Conan and Haibara, who usually act all mature and rational, can't resist joining in. The kids' laughter ends up waking up the skinny boy resting in the room, Tuma Tachihara, Nurse Fuyumi's son. This poor kid has been in a coma for 8 whole years. The sounds of the snowball fight wake him up, and he even says he wants to go out and play. If they had known this would wake him, they would have had the kids play right in front of him ages ago. Everyone is incredibly happy for Fuyumi. Mutu tells Conan that Tuma fell off a cliff near the old village early one morning 8 years ago. When they found him, he was barely breathing and has been in a coma ever since. Ironically, this happened on the exact same day as Yamao's hit and run. Fuyumi's parents had died in an avalanche years prior. The golden window for avalanche rescue is just 15 minutes. A short 15 minutes that means the difference between life and death. As a widow, she took care of her son all by herself this whole time. On that specific day, Fuyumi had gone to the hospital to request emergency leave. Word around town is that a neighbor's dog found Tuma at the bottom of the cliff, and since he had binoculars around his neck, everyone just assumed he slipped and fell by accident. While everyone is having a good time watching the swans and walking in the snow, Mizuki suddenly notices a shape in the snow not too far away. It looks exactly like Hikawa. When they get closer, they find it really is him, but he's huddled up, clutching his knees, completely motionless. Mori walks up and shakes him twice, and Hikawa falls to the ground, dead. The first victim has appeared. Mori claims Hikawa died of a heart attack. Mizuki chimes in to confirm that Hikawa did have a history of heart issues. But Conan finds the whole thing super suspicious. Where is the stun gun that was just in his pocket? Hikawa said he carried it everywhere, so why is it missing? Did someone from the group take it? Mori says that's impossible because nature doesn't lie. The footprints in the snow are crystal clear and belong to only one type of shoe, Hikawa's. To Mori, this proves Hikawa walked by the lake alone, reached the snowy field, had a heart attack, and died in this isolated spot. Suddenly, Mori gets an idea. Maybe this is the classic footprints in the snow trick, meaning the killer wore shoes matching Hikawa's, carried his body into the snowy field, dumped him there, and then walked backward, stepping exactly into their own footprints to leave. That way, it looks like only one person walked out there. But is walking backward into your own footprints really that easy? Mori looks around at everyone's skeptical faces. He decides to do a live demonstration right then and there, which ends with him falling over in a hilarious and embarrassing way. Walking backward into the same footprints makes absolutely no sense. Conan steps in and explains what actually happened. The killer did walk into the snowfield with Hikawa, but not just now. It happened while it was snowing. The killer murdered Hikawa right here, and then staged it to look like a heart attack. The heavy snow quickly covered both sets of footprints from when they walked in. Once it stopped snowing, the killer walked out of the snowfield backward. The proof? The back of Hikawa's hat is completely full of snow. The killer remembered to brush the snow off Hikawa's shoulders and head, but forgot the hat. This means the killer knew someone would walk by soon and find the body. Mizuki had already mentioned that the swan watching activity had a set schedule, making it easy to know when people would be passing through. And the trail of footprints leads straight to Mutu's workshop in the mountains. The police head back to the resort to investigate. The inspector asks Hikawa's friends what they were doing all day. Fuyumi was with her son, Tuma. He got tired from playing in the snow and fell asleep, so she doesn't have an alibi. Yamao went for a walk, no alibi. Mutu was working in his workshop, no alibi either. Mizuki, however, has witnesses because she was hanging out with Conan and the group. Yamao points the finger at Mutu as the prime suspect, arguing that the footprints led toward his workshop. He also adds that Hikawa was obsessed with Mizuki and had even proposed to her in the past, so if someone used her name, Hikawa would definitely show up. On top of that, Mutu and Hikawa fought constantly over the dam, one against, one for, and just fundamentally hated each other. Early the next morning, Conan wakes up before dawn to watch the sunrise. Along the way, Ran calls Shinichi again, but Conan hangs up on her again. Ran is feeling pretty bummed out. On their walk, they spot Tuma sitting in the snow in front of a grave, staring blankly into space. The headstone reads, "Grave of Black, Shiro." This dog was Tuma's favorite pet, and it was the very dog that found him when he fell off the cliff 8 years ago. Tuma is heartbroken and crying.
My friends have become people I don't recognize, and my dog is dead too. I really don't know what to do.
Keep in mind, Tuma was in a coma for 8 years, so his mind is still that of a 7-year-old. He can't process that so much time has passed. While Tuma is sobbing, the sun rises and the blowing snow sparkles like diamonds in the air, a phenomenon known as diamond dust. The kids call out to Tuma to come enjoy the beautiful view with them. But as Tuma looks up, he suddenly grabs his head and starts shaking violently. It's like something is triggering his memories, but he can't quite piece it together, and the harder he tries to remember, the more it hurts. Still, this is a good sign. Bits of his memory are starting to come back. Meanwhile, hiding in the shadows far away, Yamao is glaring at Tuma maliciously, deciding right then and there that he can't let the boy live. At lunch, Conan and Haibara analyze the situation. The day Tuma fell off the cliff was cloudy, so there wouldn't have been any diamond dust. So what did Tuma see back then that was triggered by the sparkling snow today? Right at that moment, Conan realizes Genta and the others are gone. Haibara says they went to play with Tuma. Conan gets a bad feeling, totally sure they are about to cause a disaster. And he's right. These kids just can't sit still without stirring up trouble. They took Tuma to see the exact cliff he fell from, hoping it would jog his memory. That afternoon, the 5th anniversary celebration for the dam is supposed to take place, but they notice the kids still aren't back. Sonoko spots some dam employees who mention that despite the big event today, the dam is only being guarded by 2 people. Conan sees a girl from Tuma's old class. She came to give him his old drawings and photos to help him remember, but got scared it would just cause him more pain, so she didn't hand them over. Looking at the folded paper, Conan suddenly realizes that when you fold something, the important content is usually on the inside to protect it. But the other day, when Hikawa opened the newspaper with the article about Yamao's car crash, the page with the article was facing outward. Could there have been something else hidden inside? Conan takes off like a rocket. He sprints back to the resort just as the inspector is opening Hikawa's room. Using Mori's voice, he asks to check the newspaper Hikawa had on him. Tucked inside is an article about a jewelry store robbery, and the date of the heist is exactly 1 day before Yamao's hit and run. Just then, Conan gets a call from Haibara.
We've lost contact with Genta and the others.
Before she can even finish her sentence, the call drops because the signal dies. At that exact moment, all the cell towers near the village are blown up, and even the landline stations are destroyed. The village is completely cut off from the outside world. The missing kids are trudging through the snow, with Yamao stalking them. They try to shake him off, but it's no use. The kids start running as fast as they can, but Yamao chases after them, carrying a hunting rifle. Tuma suddenly remembers everything clearly. He was chased by Yamao back then, and had to run for his life. Yamao aims his rifle and fires at the kids. Now, these kids don't have Conan's bullet-dodging skills, but luckily, the shooter's aim is terrible. Conan and Haibara zoom over on the snowboard at top speed. When they hear the gunshots, Conan floors it toward them. The kids panic and scramble into a small cave, and Haibara follows them in. Seriously, these kids act without thinking. I don't know how they made it to the 15th movie. The cave is too small for an adult to fit into, but someone could easily shoot inside. Conan arrives just in time and guides them deeper into the cave. Conan finally pieces it all together. The mastermind behind everything is Yamao. 8 years ago, Yamao robbed a jewelry store and murdered the owner. After the heist, he planned to go to the village to visit his grandmother, but in his panicked state, he ran over a girl, Mizuki's sister Natsuki. He had to flee the scene because the stolen jewels were right there in his car. If he got caught then, his robbery would be exposed. When Yamao got out to check on his victim, he bumped into Tuma, who was out looking for his mom. Yamao knocked Tuma unconscious and threw him in the car, not sure what to do with him yet. But when Tuma woke up, he saw the stolen jewels spill out. Since Tuma saw the loot, Yamao decided to silence him, chasing the kid until he saw him fall off the cliff. The only reason Yamao turned himself in for the hit and run was because he was terrified the police would start digging into his background and connect him to the robbery. What Yamao didn't expect was that by the time he got out, the village would be sitting at the bottom of a dam. So, to get back the jewels he hid in the village years ago, his only option is to drain the dam. He picked the day of the celebration because he knew the dam would be practically unguarded. But here comes the massive plot twist. That person who was just chasing the kids and pulled the trigger right before they hid in the cave wasn't Yamao like you thought this whole time. There's someone else pulling the strings behind this specific scene. Someone no one suspected. And discovering their identity turns everything upside down. The exit of the cave leads directly to the dam's drainage pipes. This is the absolute fastest shortcut to the top of the dam. Conan deduces that Hikawa must have figured out the truth about Yamao's jewelry heist and blackmailed him for a cut of the profits. But there's no honor among thieves. Yamao was actually planning to wait for the perfect chance to take out Hikawa first and then go after the jewels. There was another massive hurdle: the governor attending the anniversary celebration. With the governor there, the media would be swarming the place. Even if he blew up the cell towers, he wouldn't be able to stop the news from getting out for very long. Plus, Yamao isn't an excavation expert. He'd need time to dig up the jewels, so he couldn't risk word of a dam breach spreading quickly. Tuma, however, seems to have a different take on Conan's deduction, even if he can't quite put it into words. Once they reach the dam, they split up. The kids protect Tuma. Haibara heads to Mutu's workshop, and Conan goes to warn the dam workers. Conan reaches the dam only to find that Yamao works fast. The workers have already been electrocuted, and bombs are planted everywhere. Haibara calls to tell him that Mutu was also tasked. Right then, Yamao sneaks up behind Conan, stun gun in hand. No matter how good your martial arts are, weapons are tough to beat, and even Conan hates stun guns. But our main hero doesn't go down as easily as some extra who passes out from one touch. Even while staggering, Conan manages to run and dodge. Yamao kicks Conan around like a soccer ball until he's satisfied, then remembers his rifle and gets ready to send Conan to the next world. Suddenly, Yamao takes a bullet to the arm. It's Mizuki, firing a hunting rifle. Villains always screw up by monologuing too much. If he had just pulled the trigger instantly, the grass on Conan's grave would be pretty tall by now. Meanwhile, the kids run over to them. Tuma suddenly points right at Mizuki and screams.
The person who was chasing me back then was her.
It turns out that 8 years ago, Mizuki and her younger sister were arguing on a winding mountain road. Mizuki shoved her hard, sending her sister tumbling down to the road below. Right at that moment, Yamao happened to drive by and ran her over. So, when it comes down to who is to blame, Mizuki and her sister actually hold most of the responsibility, making Yamao's panic and flight a tiny bit tragic for him. Conan realizes that Mizuki had chased Tuma all the way to the cliff, watching him fall and lose his memory. Since then, she took the receptionist job at the resort just so she could keep a close eye on him. It would have been better for her if he never woke up, but since he recently did, she scrambled to change her appearance, switching from glasses to contacts and changing her hairstyle. But despite the disguise, Tuma slowly remembered exactly what happened that day. Mizuki breaks down crying.
I never wanted to kill anyone. Pushing my sister was just me wanting to teach her a lesson, and shooting at the kids was just to scare them off so Tuma would stay away from me. I really didn't want to kill anyone.
Conan believes her. Mizuki is an incredibly sharp shooter, capable of hitting a target from 20 or 30 meters away. Despite firing multiple times, not a single kid was scratched, proving she never intended to hurt them. Mutu breathes a sigh of relief, seeing that Mizuki has finally let go of the heavy burden she's carried for 8 long years. While everyone is having this emotional moment, the ever-observant Haibara notices that the red light on the bomb remote is blinking. Conan looks around and sees that all the bombs on the dam are flashing. Run! Yamao had said the bombs were set to go off in 15 minutes. The kids sprint ahead as explosions go off right behind them. All the bombs detonate with enough force to shake the earth and the mountains. It looks like Yamao spent his 8 years in prison studying explosive demolition. But when did he even have time to plant all these? Are the dam workers just there for decoration? Worse still, he even planted bombs underwater. If the dam completely collapses, Kitanosawa Village is doomed, and everyone will drown. Conan suddenly remembers there's a brand new ski resort near the village. An avalanche might just be enough to divert the floodwaters. And so begins Conan's superhuman showcase. One boy and a skateboard, taking on snow, earth, and a raging flood. With snowboarding skills like that, why is he even a detective? He should be in the Winter Olympics. He'd definitely be an undefeated champion. Meanwhile, Ran and the others are rushing toward the dam to look for Conan, only to see the dam collapsing, and Conan literally flying over their heads, zigzagging his way up the mountain. Dr. Agasa explains that Conan is trying to trigger an avalanche to change the water's path. But just as he's about to finish the job, his skateboard's battery dies. He was so close. Frustrated, Conan kicks the snow with all his might, and believe it or not, that single kick is enough to trigger the avalanche. The ground shakes with a deafening roar, sounding like thousands of stampeding horses. Conan quickly grabs his dead skateboard. You don't need a battery to slide downhill.
Conan, watch out!
Conan makes one final leap into the air, seeing the sheer terror on Rand's face before being completely swallowed by a massive wave of crashing snow. The massive pile of snow successfully stops the rushing water from the dam, saving Kitanosawa Village. However, Conan is buried deep under an endless sea of white snow. Everyone frantically starts digging for their hero. As you know, there's a golden rule with avalanches. You only have 15 minutes to find the victim before they suffocate under the snow. Rand digs with her bare hands until they bleed. She had called his phone earlier, and although she found the phone in the snow, Conan wasn't anywhere near it. The golden 15-minute window is rapidly closing. Are they really going to lose Conan forever? The kids remember Conan telling them that missing an opportunity might mean never seeing someone again, and they burst into tears. There's only 1 minute left, but nobody is giving up. In the final, desperate moments, Rand calls Shinichi's phone. Conan, who had passed out, is woken up by the phone vibrating in his pocket, realizing his ball dispensing belt had a delayed activation. Suddenly, a soccer ball erupts from under the snow and shoots into the sky. Rand sprints toward where the ball came from and finally manages to pull a freezing Conan out of the snow. At the end of the story, the bag full of jewels is found buried in the old yard of Yamao's house at the bottom of the dam, sealing his guilt with hard evidence. Mizuki confesses the truth about the fight with her sister and is taken away by the police for questioning. Tuma's memories slowly start to return, and very soon, the village will go back to being the quiet, peaceful place it once was. That wraps up our review for today. Catch you later!